Julie Bryant Fisher. I'm with the Technology Association of Georgia. Welcome to another edition of Tag TV. I am joined today by Sam Chandler. She is the manager of scaled success with Zendesks. Sam, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we really appreciate it. It's always great to sit down with our treasured members and learn a bit about what they're doing in the industry. So tell us a little bit about Zendesk and what you guys are doing for your customers these days.
Yeah, so you know what? The best way to answer that, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
So think about the last amazing experience you had with a company, any company.
Right.
You don't have to tell me.
Okay.
What made you feel so happy about that?
I'm so ready for this. Are you ready? This is the same answer I always give. It's personal experience. It's personalized to me. That's what will get me.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's so funny about that is that if you think about how many interactions we have every day with people, with companies, with technology, we have all of these experiences, but we still kind of feel isolated sometimes. You know, we feel disenfranchised and like people aren't hearing us and seeing us.
Yeah.
And so I think what we do at Zendesk is we create software that makes it easier for you to communicate with your customers.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just reading an article in the Harvard Business Review about how it was covering hacks on how to get companies to respond to your support questions.
Right.
And it made me so sad that it existed. Why does that exist? Why do we need companies? Like, why do we have to beg companies to talk to us?
Why do you have to do like sneak tactics?
Exactly.
Where we just making it personal.
Exactly. So that's what we do at Zendesk is we break down that barrier so that we don't need articles like that anymore.
I love that. Wow, that's really inspirational. I was not expecting that. Well, we talked before about what sets Zendesk apart. So this is the thread, right? It's that personal experience, but tell me a little bit about, because there's things I can do. I have a lot in my ear about how to reach my customers, a lot of noise about what I should and shouldn't do. How are you helping folks navigate those kind of murky waters?
Yeah, so ever since we were founded a little over 10 years ago, our founders, we got them around a table. There's an actual table. It's on display at our San Francisco headquarters. Nice. And at that point, it felt like customer service. Like the department itself was meant to be a wall so that you didn't have to talk to your customers.
Gotcha.
And they thought there's got to be a better way here. And so from our earliest days, the entire point of what we're doing is to enable people to talk to one another, empower agents to talk to their customers, and in turn have the customers feel like they're capable and that they're smart and that they were heard. So yeah, that's how we approach it. That's, I think, really what differentiates us in this space is our ability to allow you to talk to one another.
That'd be such a relief because it is intimidating. Let's say I've just started a business or I'm trying to grow my business and I know I need to be using a platform. I know I need to be going to Zendesk, but I'm so afraid of how I'm supposed to get started and I'm intimidated. If you're empowering me, I'm in the driver's seat again. And I know my business, right? So I can tell my customers that more effectively.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, scaled success, manager of scaled success. Let's talk about this role and a little bit about you, your role at Zendesk, and what's exciting you about the work you're doing right now.
So I think at least 3 times a week, I'll ask all of my customers, how do you differentiate yourself from your competitors? And at least 3 times a week I hear, well, through customer service. How many times have you heard that?
Right.
We're different because of our customer
service.
Right. But then my follow-up question is, okay, how? How do you do that? What does that mean?
Right.
And a lot of times I get crickets, and that's where I come in. That's okay.
Gotcha.
That's okay.
You're comfortable with crickets.
We're comfortable with crickets. You got to start somewhere. But, no technology, don't care if it's Zendesk or anything else, it's not going to be your strategy. And a lot of times I think people have a tendency to use technology as a crutch for a lack of strategy.
Yeah.
So that's how I work with my customers is we take away everything else and we say, okay, let's get to the heart of what you're trying to do. And that's the way I spend every single day. It's a blast.
Nice.
I love it.
That is cool. I'm not sure everybody can say that, or that that's always the approach that we hear. Now, flipping back to trends, this customer experience thing that we all talk about like we know what we're talking about these days, right? Like this is the thing. But there are trends in that space that you all are a part of. But what are you seeing evolving when it comes to customer experience?
Oh, so many things.
Yeah?
So, right now I think what is most interesting is the way that people are using technology. So, AI, I don't know if you've heard of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
It's kind of a thing right now. But there's a growing debate. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it taking away jobs? Is it making us more efficient? And so I was just watching a presentation by Scott Galloway. He's an economics professor over at NYU.
Cool.
Really awesome guy. And he brought up a great point about how the best companies are actually using technology like AI. They're using all of the data around them to make their employees better. They're empowering their employees instead of trying to cut them out.
Wow.
So you'll find that the people that are the companies that are using this technology in that way to empower their agents and then their customers, those are the people that are being innovative. They're disrupting this space.
Wow, yeah, and disruption, a big thing. And even though we use that as like the trendy, we're disrupting, it's true though.
It's absolutely true.
And that's an effective strategy. I've got to ask you, can you run me through an example of how this works? Because as you're talking, these all sound like exactly the right things. It's certainly what I would want to hear. But when I get in front of my desktop and I'm actually clicking away, tell me a little bit about what that looks like as a customer of Zendesk.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we have a lot of data. We all have so much data that is available to us. And it's really just about starting with the way that you use it. It's not necessarily that you have to have this big program. You have to devote a lot of resources to it. It's really just about common sense and thinking about what you have available to you, what you're looking at. So you can start with something as simple as gathering the little nuggets of metadata and those points that you have on your customer and saying, okay, if they're telling us this, if we've noticed that all of these people are experiencing this, and this, well then why don't we do something about it? Why don't we go to them instead of having them come to us? So that's a really easy way to start.
And you can use a platform like this to do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you could build a full-scale strategy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nuts to bolts, soup to nuts, all that.
Yeah. And it reminds me, so it's very interesting to see how we've evolved. We started as just a support, customer service department, and we've evolved into all of the elements of the customer experience. And, for instance, we have a product called Sunshine, and it's a platform that allows you to connect those pieces. So, thinking back to the company that I asked you about, do you remember what department you were working with at all?
No.
Yeah, and you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you're not talking to a department, you're talking to a company. And you don't care who in that company is representing them. They're all that company. And so I think it's really important as we're evolving in the customer experience space to realize that it's not just customer support against the world. That's not the only customer facing person in the company. We're all customer facing.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
So Sunshine, going back to that for a second, that's a product that you all offer that I think is relatively new, yeah?
Yes.
All right. And I was kind of doing a little sniffing around, but how does this envelop the new trends, serve the customers in new ways? Tell us a little bit Sunshine, because now that I'm seeing it all over my computer screen when I open up,
it's sunny, right?
It's sunny.
Yeah. So it's kind of encapsulating all of those concepts that we were just talking about. So if you have an accounting department, they've got these little nuggets of data over here. You've got sales. Maybe they know something else about their customers. And then support, they know something completely different.
So this integration.
Integration, yeah. And so it doesn't matter who you're talking to in the company, you're feeling heard. You're feeling like, wait, I just talked to somebody in accounting last week and they remembered. I'm talking to sales now, but they remembered what I did, and it makes you feel better. You have that amazing experience that you were talking about.
This reminds me of everything we're hearing about personalized healthcare now, right? So when I come to a different doctor, they already know me. I've left a trail, and I'm not starting over from scratch, which is a scary thing. That's really scary from a business standpoint too. You know, I have to start over from scratch every time I talk versus the integration.
And you know what's funny is that all of our surveys that we've done independently, and then you know that you see in this space. That's the number one frustration for all customers is having to start over from scratch. How many times have you been on the phone, you get connected to somebody else and you're like, I'm not explaining this again. Like, I'm just not, never mind.
It is the primary reason I don't get on the phone and just try to figure it out myself, not knowing what I'm probably missing by having that experience.
And you know what's really sad about those companies that are making you do that? They don't even realize that they're making you do that.
It's sad.
And they're not even measuring. So they're measuring the first reply time that their agents are doing, but they're not even thinking, wait, we just lost her.
Wow, that's really interesting.
We didn't hear her.
No, they did lose me. They lost me, and I probably would have loved to have known the other things that they had going on. I just don't have the time to get on the phone and start from scratch. All right, so sunshine in our worlds. We're not starting over from scratch. The personal experience that you deliver to your customers, also a great thing. One thing we talked about that I want to revisit, because we were chatting a little before we got here today, is that you have a really great approach in terms of how you give advice to your customers. So, you know, you come with, let's say you're coming to me, and I'm going to know nothing. I'm going to be probably your most naive client, trust me. But I'm going to come to you and hope you can Sherpa me up the mountain. And I love what you talked earlier about just in giving advice to your customers. How do you do that?
So, actually, this is for everybody. I'm going to look at a camera because this is this important.
Go for it.
When you're starting out, the best thing that you can do is just ask yourself two questions. First off, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to do?
Did you hear that?
That's important. The next thing is, how am I going to measure the success of this? Once you have those figured out, you work backwards and you figure it out from there.
I love it. I'm convinced. I'm convinced. Yeah.
There's no secret to it. Again, technology is not going to get you there. A whiteboard is. A dry erase board, you probably need that. That's probably the most important first tool that you can get. Dry erase board.
What are you telling your clients not to do, though? What are some of the most common things where you're seeing them and you're like, oh, let me just steer you in the other direction?
So, you know, it's really interesting right now. I know big data is a huge thing, but what I see sometimes that makes me sad is when I have a company that they have access to amazing data, or they command data. They really want it. They say, give me more of it. And then I say, okay, what are you doing with it? And they don't know. They don't have any answers for that. And so, you know, we live in a time where it's astounding how much data we have. Sometimes it's overwhelming. And instead of being innovative with it, you know, instead of living up to what you just told me about differentiating yourself through customer service, you're sitting on that data and you're just looking at, you know, how quickly did we respond to this? Or was our satisfaction score 1 point higher than it was last week?
Gosh, we've got all this data. Woo, look at us now.
I made a report for you. You know, the report itself is not the work. The work is trying to figure out how you can alleviate your customers' pain points.
I think we're all there, you know, because big data is really big, and I think we all arrived at, okay, do we have the data? Okay, we have data.
Yeah,
we have data, everyone, we have data. Now, what do we do with it? A few little things here or there, and let's try this. Spreadsheet. Yeah. Segmentation, here we go. So I was gonna ask you, with this big data trend, how much bigger are we going to get? What are you seeing on the horizon as we head off into because it seems to only be growing. And not only what are you seeing, but what are you seeing that can be helpful to clients versus intimidating or even just bigger?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think we're going to get less data. Okay. I think it's safe to say.
We kind of knew that, though.
Yeah,
we figured.
We kind of figured that out. But yeah, the best companies that I see doing this really well, they're taking that metadata and they're spreading it all around their organization, and they're proactively using it. So I hope that trend continues. That's probably, I think that's kind of the coolest thing that I see companies doing that are doing it right is, instead of waiting for us to reach out to them, they're saying, you know what, I noticed this about you. I noticed this and I noticed that. Maybe I'll reach out to you. For example, American Express. I love them.
Yeah.
When I book a flight on my American Express,
right,
they send me an email and they're like, hey, by the way, we know that you're going to San Francisco.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell us. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to tell us you're traveling.
Nice.
And I'm like, hey, thanks, guys.
I wish I were that sophisticated. I'm going to be honest in that last night I'm scrolling through and an ad gets served up for this really beautiful green wrap. And I was like, ooh, it's like you know me.
Right.
Clickety.
Yeah.
And then it was on sale, and I was like, how do I not?
Yeah.
I mean, it's on sale.
It's on sale.
And I thought later, as I think often about the kinds of ads that I get served for clothes that I can't resist, is that they are using that metadata. And to be honest, I like that. That makes it a lot easier for me because I don't have time to go shopping, and even online shopping anymore is a challenge.
Exactly. And you know what's really interesting about that is that we live in a time of an entitlement economy.
Yeah.
You expect that companies will know this about you, and you expect that they're going to use that information that you've freely given them. And so if you're not taking advantage of those data points to tell your customers, we hear you. You know what? I think you'll like this green scarf.
Right.
What are we doing?
And I don't see it as, I know they're selling to me, but because they've bothered to get to know my style, I'm impressed.
Right.
That's interesting. Entitlement economy. That's a biggie, right? That expectation. Like we get frustrated if things don't move fast enough still on phones and devices. It scales up for companies now where the expectations are so high for what we should be able to get instantly. And that's something you guys can help your customers navigate.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the power of manipulating data and understanding it through a company like Zendesk.
Yeah. And it's funny because we talk about meeting or exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
And
what does that mean to you?
What does that mean?
What does that
That's
mean?
a great question, So a lot of times, like we said, we'll hear companies say, we go above and beyond for our customers. Okay, what does that mean? And, studies have found that customers actually don't want that. They don't care about that. They just want you to answer the question that they had so that they can get on with their day. They don't want to call you. They just want to get it done.
Got it.
So it's this interesting time, though, in our lives where we just want our expectations met, but our expectations are so high that meeting those expectations feels like maybe back in the day it would have been exceeding them. So it's a crazy world to navigate, but I think if you just take a look at the data and you really focus in on your main strategy, your North Star, that's going to be the most important thing that you can do, especially as you're starting up.
I love that. That sounds sage advice. As we're sitting here talking today, I think if we're leaving on that note, find your North Star as like the tagline.
That's a good end note. I like
think
that.
That's a good end note. We were talking a little earlier. I always like to end the interviews first by thanking you for being a member of TAG. We love Zendesk. We love working with you all, and we can't wait to see the partnership grow further.
Likewise.
And I always like to ask sort of anything you can say about the power of belonging to an association like TAG.
What's so funny is that it kind of reminds me of why I'm at Zendesk in the first place. So I was a customer of Zendesk before I worked at Zendesk.
Nice.
And what drew me in as a customer and as now a Zendeskian is feeling like they brought me into the fold. They made me feel like, you're part of this. And it's the same with TAG.
Nice.
It feels like that you're part of a warm, welcoming organization that's going to help you get to where you need to go. That's just what we were talking about before we started this.
That's sincerely what we're here for. Yeah, and we also share something in common. We both lived in Oklahoma.
We did.
Where the wind went whipping through our hair and down the plains and whatever those Oklahoma, the tornadoes were there. But we've both been in Atlanta for a while. We're calling it home officially.
Yeah.
It's been 20 plus.
Yeah,
We're
we
there.
won't say 20 plus and that's it.
That's all we're gonna say. Maybe do we mean 10? We meant 10.
We meant
10.
Absolutely.
So it's home base. What's your favorite hangout or restaurant that you'd like to recommend?
You know, Atlanta food is amazing.
It is.
I don't think it gets the recognition
It's a
it
foodie
deserves.
town.
It's really good.
It
It's
is.
really good.
Yes.
No, so I'm obsessed with Ford Fry restaurants.
Okay,
Any Ford
then.
Fry. King and Duke is my favorite over in Buckhead.
It's a
but
good one.
You give me a Ford Fry restaurant any day, I'm there.
All right, I'm gonna give you a fist bump on Ford Fry because it's never not good there.
We're not good.
All right, so you've gotten a lot today. We've gotten tips, sage advice, North Star, and even some restaurant tips. Thank you so much for being
you.
with us today and for spending time with us. It's been a pleasure. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you so much.
Thank you.